Welcome to Homestead How. We're excited for today's episode. 45 days ago, we lit one match and we started one fire in our outdoor wood burner. That fire has been burning ever since, and there's still hot coals in there going now. Today, we're gonna clean the ash out of the wood burning stove. We've done this a couple times already this season, but we didn't get any of it on video. The cool part that I think you guys are gonna be interested in is learning all of the amazing things that you can do with the ash from your wood burner. Things that you wouldn't even imagine we're gonna show you in today's episode. So let's get started. So we're at 167 degrees. There's a couple of hot coals left in there, but it's mostly ash. We've cleaned this out a couple times now, but we let it go way too far. There's way too much ash in there, so we gotta clean the whole thing out now. We're gonna move the hot coals to the back, and then we're gonna shovel out the ash into a metal can, and then we're gonna show you some really cool things you can do with that ash. If you get an outdoor wood burner like one of these, they usually come with two tools, a rake and this thing, which I guess is kind of like a hoe, and you can use this to scrape the creosote and the crumb off the side of your wood burner. We're going to use the rake. The rake is nice because you can get some of the larger coals and you can isolate those away from the ash. We're going to try to separate some of those coals so that we can just shovel out the ash. We don't want to shovel out the hot coals, we can still use those for heat. See, the rake is kind of nice because the small ash stays behind and then you push the larger coals forward. I'm trying to save these coals, so I'm going to push all the coals to the back of the fire. Look how hot this thing is. During the summer, I want to build our woodshed out more. Ideally, if we had the budget, I'd love to build it so that there's actually a roof going over this part so that you can fill it up and you're not in the elements or in the snow. So I just raked a bunch of the coals. I've got some good separation now where the hot coals are in the back, the finer ash is in the front. Now I'm going to use this tool to scrape off some of the creosote that's built up on the sides. You can kind of see that really good right here on this edge. I like to do that around the door especially so that we get a nice good seal. And then after I get the door, I'll go all the way along the side of the firebox. Another sort of maintenance issue with these things are, I need to find like a brush or something, but the vent door is down here. There's an electronic damper that opens and closes to regulate the heat. So if the water hits 180 degrees, this closes, it doesn't let any more air in. If the water temperature is at, say, 160 degrees, which it is now, this is open. It's wide open right now to let air in and make the fire get hotter and then make the water get hotter. Well, this gets crud all over it, and sometimes that door sticks on the other side. It's actually pretty clean right now. This wire goes to that electronic damper, and it's good to take this off and oil it every now and then, and I've done that a few times. A regular maintenance thing is to check the water level. I check this thing all the time. You just turn this little lever here and it's got to be up to this mark, and it's right there, it's perfect. Besides checking the water level, when you close this, the water drips out and you can test the pH level of it. They sell a kit for it. I'm not doing that today, but I have done that in the past. All right. So I used the rake and I've separated a lot of the coals. It's impossible to get them all separated. I don't want to waste those coals, but I've got some good fine ash up here. It's important to use a metal can, obviously. We're dealing with some hot coals and some hot ash here. And you don't want to put too much in there that you can't move it. Kind of goes without saying, but it can get pretty heavy pretty quickly. So we're going to start emptying some of the finer ash out now. The trick is to not put your head over the garbage can because you're going to get all that fine dust smoke coming up in your face. And if you want to have some fun, you can go like that. Wasn't that fun? No? Last thing You always want to have the hot coals at the front of the fire so that when the door opens, the electronic damper opens and closes, that air hits those and can reignite them. All right, so we got a nice bucket full of ash here, and there's lots of things we can do with it. But first, it's important that we let it cool down. So we're going to let it cool down, and we're going to come back in a couple days and show you what we can do with this ash. All right, another really good use for your wood ash is to clean your wood burning stove door. They get these stains on them, they're really hard to get out. You have the ash right here, and what you do is mix a little bit of ash with a little bit of water and make sort of a paste. Abrasive cleaner to clean your door off with. It's coming right off. This is working really, really well. You can feel how abrasive it is. It's just lightly scratching the surface, but it got that big stain off, no problem. And now I'm just gonna wipe it off with a wet washcloth. Look how much cleaner that is. It looks like a brand new window. So some of these things, when you look up online, all the things you can do with ash, some of them are kind of weird, like I would never do, like brush your teeth, but this works surprisingly well. It was really easy, and I think we've tried other cleaners on the door, and that just took that big black mark off in no time. And now we just rinse it off, and now look how clear that window is. You can see it perfectly. Things you can use this for is to clean up spills in your garage, like oil. Let that soak in just like you would maybe with cat litter, and it'll sweep right up and it'll clean the oil up off the ground. Let's see how well it worked. Okay. Another thing you can use your old ash for is fixing ruts in your driveway. I actually learned this from an old Keeping Up with Dutch video I just watched, and he uses all of his old firewood ash to fill in holes in his driveway, and he says that it actually dries almost as hard as cement. Obviously our driveway is full of snow and ice here, but we do have this little rut from our car tire going in and out of the garage door, so I'm going to put some in here. And per Dutch's channel, he said that dries like almost like cement. And I actually watched a couple other YouTube videos where they were making cement out of old ash. So that's the second thing you can use your old ash for, is patching and filling in some holes in your driveway. Let's go look at number 3 next. Another really good use for your old ash is eliminating odors in your refrigerator. Another really good use of ash is for melting snow and ice. True, you could use salt for that, but it's expensive. The salt could hurt your dog's feet or your animals if they're walking through it, and salt can also destroy grass if it's nearby. We have ash, it's free, it's right here, and it does a great job. This is the entrance to our Airbnb rental. Guests walk through here, they park their cars right here, and we always get some ice right in this corner here. So I'm just gonna sprinkle some ash here, and then I'll be able to sweep it right into the driveway afterwards. So ash is really good replacement for using salt to get rid of ice and snow. Alright, so one of the #1 things you can use with your ash is for fertilizing your garden and keeping pests down in your garden. You can also use it to fertilize your trees. You can mix the ash in with some water, and they call it a tea that you can make that you can then spray on your flowers and plants. One of the biggest things is using it in your garden and using it for fertilizer. For that reason, we're going to end up having a couple of these cans that fill up throughout the winter that we're going to save for summertime. But even though it is winter and there's snow on the ground, I don't have enough cans, so I'm going to take this ash now and I'm going to dump it right over the snow in the garden, and that'll absorb down and It's not going to be as effective as if the garden was in the middle of summertime right now, but we're going to end up with so much ash that I'll have plenty to use more on it later. All right, so we're going to take this ash and we're going to put it in our garden. And we did this last year and we got a ton of pumpkins. It definitely seems like it helped. I'm going to take this bucket, I'm going to put it off to the right side of the garden. That way when I do the next load, I'll know that that was my first one, and then the second load I can put in the center, and then the third load eventually when we get another garbage can full of ash will go on the left side of the garden. So again, this is kind of stupid. Why are we doing this over the snow? We're gonna have so much ash, we're not gonna know what to do with it. So rather than buying like 6 garbage cans and storing the ash until summertime, we're gonna dump some of it now. Another great use of chicken dust bath. Another great use for your used ash is for chicken dust baths. You can put a container out with the ash in it. You can even put some of it on the ground. Obviously make sure that it's all cool when you do that. And the chickens can give themselves a dust bath just like they would in summertime in the dirt and dust. Don't even think about it. In conclusion, don't just throw out your ash. It's a valuable resource that can be used for many useful things on your homestead. In particular, I was impressed how well it cleaned the glass on our wood burning stove. Really abrasive. People actually brush their teeth with this, which I think is insane, but I understand it more now that I cleaned that glass off. It was really abrasive and did a nice job cleaning it. That and then the garden I think is really the big one for most homesteaders. But the fact that you can also patch holes in your driveway with it and it dries as hard as cement per Dutch's video, I think that's pretty cool too. So lots of uses for ash, and that's one thing with being a homesteader. It's about reusing, recycling, and not just throwing stuff out and being wasteful. So keep that in mind when you're emptying out the ash tray of your wood burning stove. Thanks for watching.